Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Nam Sankirtan ki jai. So we'll read. I hope everyone, I think Joel can also take a copy. So we'll be discussing from 2.54. Om Ajnanatimidandasya Jnananjanashilakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Gurun Dinatarinam Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, we welcome all of you for the Saturday discussion on the Bhagavad Gita. So, we'll be discussing from 2.54. So in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, so Arjuna is, I think most of you know it, that Arjuna is perplexed, right? He's confused and he gives so many reasons not to take part in the battle, right? He gives reasons that he'll be killing his own teachers, and then he will be killing all the men, and so all children and women will be unprotected, and that will cause some disharmony in the society, and then the entire society would cripple down, and his own relatives and all of them would be killed, and so he would not be able to enjoy, right, although being the ruler of this entire earth, right? So then Krishna and then after that he comes to conclusion that he cannot, Arjuna comes to conclusion that it's his mind which is just going through different emotions and he needs help. So then he asks Krishna for help. So, oh Krishna, please guide me to make an appropriate way out of this, right? So then Krishna, starting from the second chapter, right, he explains all the different concepts of how we are the soul, how we are all eternal, and how doing our duties in the service of the God is highest in spite of our emotional or attachments and overcoming, right? So he suggests different paths of how to gradually make progress, and he also describes the processes by which that individual in any aspect of his or her life can make tangible progress in basically realizing the reality around us, right? So then Arjuna, at this particular verse, right? So Arjuna has a doubt. So all of these conversations or all of the scriptures are in the form of question and answer, right? If even we find it in ourselves, right? Like if we keep on reading it on our own, right? It's not of much it becomes a monologue, right? But when there are some intelligent questions being asked, right, that actually churns the entire knowledge, and we can understand or we can assimilate the knowledge in a much better way, right? So even here we find that Arjuna is now having a question, right? So we'll start. So he says, Arjuna uvacha. I think all of you can also recite along with me. Arjuna uvacha. Sita prajnasas kabhasa. 121. Samadhi statha Keshava. Samadhi stasya Keshava. Sthitadhi kim prabhaseta. Sthitadhi kim prabhaseta. Kim asita vrajeta kim. Kim asita vrajeta kim. So I'll also go over the word to word meanings. Arjuna uvacha. Arjuna said, Sthita prajnasa, of one who is situated in fixed Krishna consciousness. Ka, what? Bhasa, language. Samadhi, sthitya, of one situated in trance. Keshava, O Krishna. Sthitadhi, one fixed in Krishna consciousness. Kim, what? Prabhaseta, speaks. Kim, how? Asita, does remain still. Vrajeta, walks. Kim, how? So we'll continue with the purport and translation written by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Arjuna said, O Krishna, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak? And what is his language? How does he sit? And how does he walk? Purport. As there are symptoms for each and every man in terms of his particular situation, similarly, one who is in Krishna conscious has his particular nature: talking, walking, thinking, feeling, etc. As a rich man has his symptoms by which he is known as a rich man, as a diseased man has his symptoms by which he is known as diseased, or as a learned man who has his symptoms, so a man in transcendental consciousness of Krishna has specific symptoms in various dealings. One can know his specific symptoms from the Bhagavad Gita. Most important is how the man in Krishna consciousness speaks, for speech is the most important quality of any man. It is said that a fool is undiscovered as long as he does not speak, and certainly a well-dressed fool cannot be identified unless he speaks. But as soon as he speaks, he reveals himself at once. The immediate symptom of a Krishna conscious man is that he speaks only of Krishna and of matters relating to him. Other symptoms then automatically follow as stated below. So Arjuna here is asking Sri Krishna to elaborate, right, on how the person who has been is able to perceive the nature in its true form, right, and how that person would react to different situations, right? What would be his thought process, his attitude, right? And how would he behave, right? So Arjuna is asking the practicalities of the philosophy described until now by Lord Sri Krishna. Does anyone has any question or comment or anything to add? It goes till 8 o'clock. Okay, if no one. Do we have microphones here? Right. Okay, we have one. Okay. No, if anyone wants to speak up or anything, you can do that.
Any comment or any question, please use this phone. Not phone, mic.
Okay. If not, we can move on to the next verse. Would you like to read the verse? Sri Bhagavan Uvacha
Prajhati yada kaman sarvan.
We can break it up.
Okay. Prajhati yada kaman
Prajati yada kaman
sarvan parth manogatan
Sarvan partha manogatah
atmanye vatmana tushtaha
Atmani atmanavat tushtaha
sthit pragyasta duchyate.
Sthita prajñas adochyate. You can read the translation.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O Pritha, O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of desire for sense gratification, which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind, thus purified, finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness.
Would you also read the
purport also?
Yes.
Purport. The Bhagavatam affirms that any person who is fully in Krishna consciousness or devotional service of the Lord has all the good qualities of the great sages, whereas a person who is not so transcendentally situated has no good qualifications, because he is sure to be taking refuge in his own mental concoctions. Consequently, it is rightly said herein that one has to give up all kinds of sense desire manufactured by mental concoction. Artificially, such sense desires cannot be stopped, but if one is engaged in Krishna consciousness, then automatically sense desires subside without extraneous efforts. Therefore, one has to engage himself in Krishna consciousness without hesitation, for this devotional service will instantly help one onto the platform of transcendental consciousness. The highly developed soul always remains satisfied in himself by realizing himself as the eternal servitor of the Supreme Lord. Such a transcendentally situated person has no sense desires resulting from petty materialism. Rather, he remains always happy in his natural position of eternally serving the Supreme Lord.
Thank you. Right. So here, Krishna is starting to address the question of Arjuna. Right. So first, the first symptom which he talks about is that this person who is in this higher spiritual plane of understanding the reality of how this nature is arranged and how his position is and how is the and what is the position of Krishna, right? And what is his relationship with Krishna, right? With that being firmly established in him, he only behaves to enhance his relationship with Krishna in the mood of servant. Anything that would basically please Krishna, right, would be the action that this person would pursue, right? But in this world, we see that all of us have different desires, and all of us have a different perception of reality based on those desires, right? And so we pursue those desires most of the time without having understanding about our relationship with the Lord, or understanding about how this nature works, right? So Krishna explains in this previous verses that how he briefly touches upon it, that how there are laws of nature, and based upon how we act, right, there are some consequences which are basically driven by the laws of nature, right? And how that person would actually also have a reaction associated with his action, right? So, but when that individual person acts from the plane of this pure Krishna consciousness, or with an understanding of in the true sense, right, then he would exactly know how to act in a way that would be pleasing to Krishna, and that would eventually satisfy him, right? And through this way, he is not being bound by the reactions, right? All of us are performing an action. Most of the times, we are not aware of our spiritual nature, right? And so what happens is that in the process of interacting with nature, right, we acquire some in one way to say express that is, we acquire some tendency to control over the nature independent of Krishna. And the more we engage in this particular way, the more the entanglement increases, and we are unconsciously acting to control everything independent of Krishna, and then slowly we are drifting away from our true eternal nature, and so we become more and more unhappy, right? So that is why here in this translation, Prabhupada explains that this concept of sense gratification, this acquires because of a mental concoction. So we keep imagining ways of pleasing ourselves, right? And how does that come about? It comes about with a thought in our minds, right? We keep dwelling, I'm not very much satisfied now, but if I do this, I'll be more satisfied, right? So that's a mental concoction, and then we act upon it, right? But we don't understand that unless we are truly connected to our nature or our dharma, right, in connection with Krishna, acting foolishly would enable us to go away from Krishna, right, or to get more entangled, right? But whereas this person who is already having this awareness, right, for him, he finds satisfaction in self alone and is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. So this person who exactly knows how to act, right, only he would find satisfaction. Others would not find satisfaction. That is what is Krishna explaining this particular verse. Any yes.
Could be a very silly question, but what is the difference My question is, what is the difference between a conscious individual and a Krishna conscious individual?
Okay, I'll try to address the best way I can. So conscious. So the soul. We are the soul, as Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains in this previous verses, that we are the soul, and the symptom of soul is consciousness, right? We are aware, right? We are aware of different thoughts which are appearing in our mind, right? Different emotions that we are going through, right? And different objects which the senses are interacting with, right? So we are aware. That is because of we are being conscious, and that nature of that this awareness is coming from our spiritual nature, that is the spirit soul, right? So there are different stages of this awareness, okay, and the highest form of that awareness is that one identifies that he is a spirit soul, and he has an innate connection with Krishna, who is the super soul, right? And he has a specific engagement or a specific relationship with him. That and if that individual acts in that particular relationship, and there would be an ever increasing happiness, right? But if you're only aware, or even being aware or being fully conscious of the spiritual nature is also a very advanced platform, but without having some higher positive taste of interacting with Krishna, right, we would be looking for something else, right? It is not satisfied. Does that answer your point, or you are looking for something else?
Yeah, I feel consciousness is, yes, it is definitely a little bit higher form of awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Consciousness, not necessarily awareness about us, our surrounding. It is awareness towards the ultimate truth.
Mm-hmm.
But probably another level of consciousness is Krishna.
You could use the mic, yes.
Krishna consciousness, when you connect with him,
Mm.
you're detaching yourself,
Mm.
and then he guides you. That probably is the ultimate consciousness, and he gives you the knowledge of who you are actually.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. Anybody has anything else to comment? Yes.
Yeah, I had a question. I think somewhere you said that, like, if you do your dharma, you'll be more connected to Krishna. You'll be more entangled or something. I was wondering if you could talk more about that. Like, how do you know what your dharma is? You know.
Right. So Krishna explains that we are the spirit souls who are in the current situation in our material bodies and the mind, right? So we have a psychological body and we have a physical body, right? And we are the soul who is basically in this vehicle of this psychological and spiritual, and physical bodies. Is that clear? Right? Right, we have both a spiritual dharma and a material dharma. Okay? from the spiritual dharma is that we are all eternal servants of Krishna. So dharma is something that is very, very, that you cannot separate from us, right? For example, it's a very innate nature, you know.
Innate quality of the soul.
Yes. As an example, if you say what is the dharma of sugar, it's sweetness. Okay, so it's an inseparable nature of us. Okay, so we have, so ultimately, right, from a spiritual point of view, we are all servants of Krishna, right? So that is our true identity, and at the present moment, right, we have roles to be performed even at our present condition, right? So the scripture, the Bhagavad Gita and other Shastra, they explain what are the duties associated with those roles. Like, for example, right, if you are a son, right, so what are the duties of the son towards their parents? And then you're also a citizen of this particular nation, right? So then there are some duties, right, for that you are required to perform as being a resident of this particular nation. So one may ask why, right? I don't want any more duties. I want to have fun and enjoy, right? But then the Shastra explains that no, you have acquired all of your abilities or all of your resources, right, all throughout, because of nature around you. For example, your parents, all of our parents have made a lot of sacrifices to inculcate knowledge to us, inculcate habits, inculcate good nature, right? They have made a lot of sacrifices, right? So we have our duty and obligation to also reciprocate with that, basically acknowledge that, and also perform our respective duty in that particular role, right? Similarly, if you talk about the nation, right? The nation, you are provided with access to different resources, right? Which help you to grow in your any particular education or whatever, right? So you also have an obligation or a duty after acquiring all of those resources and improving your abilities, right? You also have an obligation to use those abilities as a token of gratitude, right? So that is so you have duties at various levels, and ultimately what Krishna suggests in the Bhagavad Gita is that if you perform all of these duties as an offering to Krishna, ultimately, I have been provided with so much of love, comfort and care by my parents, my people around me, my teachers, right, and this nation, and so on, and this universe, and so on, right? So I will try to first acknowledge that, and then act in a way so that I can also be of help to others in a way that is appropriate. So that is, you have dharma at various levels, right? And ultimately we need to also attempt to connect it to Krishna, saying that so I will perform these duties in a way that is pleasing to Krishna, right? So that is what is in one way, dharma.
Can I ask, what was Arjun's dharma?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. Right. So Arjuna was Arjuna also has the same dilemma, right? So Arjuna was a trained warrior, right? So a trained kshatriya, his duty, and he has acquired all of these skills, arts, and these different weapons, right? So on, from different teachers and everybody, right? And now the whole purpose of acquiring all of this is to protect dharma, right? And so he has to ensure that everybody would be having this access to resources in a very just way, right? So he needs to ensure that justice has to be maintained and served, right? And so that is his dharma. So so if he is in that particular position of being able to protect justice from the evil, then he has to act to do that. He cannot say that, I have my relatives on the other side, although they are evil and they would basically break down the system of justice, I would not indulge in harming them, right? So that would be against his dharma. That would be that he's selfish, right? So he's not performing his dharma. So acting in this dharma is what Krishna would encourage him eventually. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, so you said that Arjuna, he was trained as like a warrior and everything, right? So
Yeah.
So what if like he didn't, he was trained with all these teachers and all these courses and everything, but then what if he realized he didn't want to be a warrior or something? So is he still obligated to be a warrior, or can he be like whatever he wants to be, like a dancer or something? I don't know.
So we all have a choice, right? It's not that Arjuna was forced to become a warrior, right? At every stage of progression, he had a choice to to learn whatever he wants to learn, right? So that is what is being explained here. We cannot say that, okay, I'm not enjoying performing this action, so I will not do it, right? It's not only about us, right? We should also make an objective assessment of how our actions also would also benefit or impact the society around us, right? So every individual has to have that kind of maturity to understand what is his role and how he has to perform it. I agree. In the olden days, things are much more defined, but now we have many options. We have more choices, right?
But Arjun also was in fact a very skilled warrior. He was really good at what he did. So all it was asked of him to use your skills to do what is right for the greater good of all. That's all
Yeah.
he was asked to do.
Has it answered your question? Okay, so I think we have time for another verse as well. Anyone would like to read? Yeah, you could also use the mic.
Which one, sir?
56.
Dushveshvanu Dvigramana
Tukeshu anuvigna manaha
Sukheshu vigata spriha
Sukeshu vigata spriha
Vitaraga bhaya krodha
Vitaraga bhaya krodha
Sthitadhi muni ruchyate.
Stitadir munir uchyate. You could also read the translation.
The English one, right?
English, yes. In bold. That's the translation.
One who is not disturbed in mind even amidst the threefold miseries or elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear and anger, is called a sage of steady mind. Purport?
Yeah, purport. Yes, please.
The word muni means one who can agitate his mind in various ways for mental speculation without coming to a factual conclusion. It is said that every muni has a different angle of vision, and unless a muni differs from other munis, he cannot be called a muni in the strict sense of the term. Nasavsir yasya mantena na bhinam. But a Sthitadhir Muni, as mentioned here by the Lord, is different from an ordinary Muni. The Sthitadhir Muni is always in Krishna consciousness, for he has exhausted all his business of creative speculation. He is called Prasanta Nishesa Muno Rathanatara, or one who has surpassed the stage of mental speculations and has come to the conclusion that Lord Sri Krishna or Vasudeva is everything. He is called a Muni fixed in mind. Such a fully Krishna conscious person is not at all disturbed by the onslaughts of the threefold miseries, for he accepts all miseries as the mercy of the Lord, thinking himself only worthy of more trouble due to his past misdeeds, and he sees that his miseries, by the grace of the Lord, are minimized to the lowest. Similarly, when he is happy, he gives credit to the Lord, thinking himself unworthy of the happiness. He realizes that it is due only to the Lord's grace that he is in such a comfortable condition and able to render better service to the Lord. And for the service of the Lord, he is always daring and active and is not influenced by attachment or aversion. Attachment means accepting things for one's own self-gratification, and detachment is the absence of such sensual attachment. But one fixed in Krishna consciousness has neither attachment nor detachment, because his life is dedicated in the service of the Lord. Consequently, he is not at all angry even when his attempts are unsuccessful. Success or no success, a Krishna conscious person is always steady in his determination.
Thank you. Right, so now, right, Krishna is elaborating on the, basically what is the attitude or what is the mindset of this particular individual who is, having this deep knowledge of this knowledge of spiritual knowledge, right? So he would, right? So he would understand this situation, how this particular nature is behaving and how he's getting impacted and how others are also getting impacted, right? And knowledge is power, right? So when you are aware of how these different interactions are happening and how one is causing a result and so and so and so, he is not disturbed, he or she is not disturbed, right? So we feel sadness. Why? Because we have an expectation, right? We put in efforts and we have an expectation, and if that doesn't happen, or if that what we expect doesn't unfold, right, we are disappointed. Why? Because there is some gap of awareness, or there's a absence of some awareness or some realization of this situation around us, right? But this person who is in this deep advanced stage of Krishna consciousness, right, he understands that how ultimately Krishna is controlling these various energies of his, and how based on the desires of individuals he is, and the actions of these individuals, he is awarding and not awarding certain benefits for different individuals, right? And so and then eventually he understands at one particular position what is the right thing to do based on this particular knowledge, and then he just distances himself with the result, thinking that he's quite humble. He understands, that particular individual understands that he's a very insignificant atom compared to this entire cosmos, and that individual is more focused on his particular duty. Okay, I am in this particular position. What is my duty and what is my dharma? Am I putting it my 100% to fulfill my duty, right? Am I basically employing all my abilities to serve the Lord in that particular situation? So he or she is only interested in that, right? And he also knows that ultimately the result is in the hands of the Lord and his different energies, right? And he doesn't that, and this particular individual also knows that he or she doesn't have control over the different energies of the Lord which are interacting with, right? He knows that he has some limited amount of freedom to operate upon, and he exercises his freedom in a way to satisfy his duties. That is all. So he's not swayed away by the results. It's a very high platform to operate upon, because all of us are naturally driven by results, right? To truly act or behave in this platform is it's quite a task. But
in one sense, it seems to be a task. In another sense, it's easy if you surrender yourself to the good Lord. He takes care of you. It's very easy. You rather be the good Lord's slave than the slave of your own monster, right? You be Krishna's slave. He guides you. You see him.
Slave is not the right word.
Well, not in that sense of the word. I mean,
It's not the slave. You can try to be his, you surrender to him.
surrender to
But
him.
that is not, slavery is a different thing.
Okay, in that sense, I think. But
thank you very much for your
Guruji.
participation.
Very lively
Thank you.
discussion. And you involved so many people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
And,
much.
we have